Okay, so we're going to break down this massive corporate failure to really understand why speaking up is so critical. All right, let's dive into this.
Billions, with a B. That's what one company lost, just in fines, after its widespread deception was uncovered back in 2015. And we're not talking about a simple mistake here. This was huge.
So, you gotta ask, right? How could a single ethical failure cost a global giant so much? Well, this story, the Volkswagen emissions scandal, it's not just about cheating on tests. It's really about what happens when the warnings coming from inside the company just get ignored.
Okay, so let's start by looking at the aftermath of this disaster, because the price they paid goes way beyond just the money.
I mean, the fallout was just huge. Billions in fines, for sure. But the real loss? Their reputation. A massive loss of trust. This wasn't just some financial problem. It was a full-blown crisis of integrity, all because they ignored reports from their own people about what was going on.
So, what's really at the core of a crisis like this one? Let's break down the two key terms you really need to get your head around.
First, you've got whistleblowing. You've probably heard the term. It's when someone on the inside, an employee, has the guts to expose unethical or illegal stuff happening in their own company. It's all about trying to keep things honest.
And that brings us to the ethical dilemma. This is that tough spot, a situation where you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. You've got to choose between what's profitable for the company and what's honest.
And Volkswagen faced a classic one. They could either admit they had a really expensive problem, or they could lie to everyone. They chose to lie. And because they didn't listen to the whistleblowers inside the company, they turned what could have been a manageable problem into a total catastrophe.
Now, what's really interesting about all this is how other companies have actually learned from these kinds of mistakes. Let's see how you can actually design a system that encourages honesty.
And this really shows you the difference, right? You've got the VW failure, where internal reports were just ignored and a culture of silence took over. And then you have a more robust system, like Siemens put in place, where they actually encourage people to report things. It lets them address issues quickly and internally before they blow up into a huge public scandal.
So the takeaway is, you can't just wish for a culture of integrity, you actually have to build it. Step 1, you need secure channels, safe and confidential ways for people to report concerns. Step 2, you have to guarantee that their identity is protected. And step 3, and this is huge, you need strict policies to protect them from any kind of retaliation. It has to be safe to speak up.
But look, systems are only part of the story. At the end of the day, it's about people. Leadership has to set the example. Employees need training so they know how to handle these tough ethical calls. And the whole company has to actually value honesty more than a quick buck.
And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. It's maybe the most important part.
Because here's the thing. Systems are essential, but they're only as strong as the people who are willing to use them. All the procedures in the world don't matter if no one has the courage to actually step forward.
And that's really the heart of it, encouraging whistleblowing. It's absolutely essential if you want to maintain integrity and prevent corruption. It's not just some nice policy. It's your best defense against a total disaster.
So it all comes down to this, really. It leaves us with a pretty powerful question to think about. If you were faced with a choice like that, what would you do?